Broadcasting at its best is the motto for Chamblee Charter High School's broadcast video production program. One way to strive for excellence is to bring in the industry's best to share their knowledge and experience. This special report is a spotlight on WSB-TV main anchor, Jovita Moore.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let's talk about you.
So, I've worked here in Atlanta for 12 years.
Jovita Moore is an accomplished journalist and broadcaster who's been in the industry for 20 years. After graduating from the prestigious Columbia School of Journalism, Jovita Moore paid her dues in the broadcasting field, working her way to the top as a main anchor for WSB-TV Channel 2 Action News.
Our news is pretty highly respected, and I'm very proud to say that WSB is like one of the best stations in the country, so it's been a great place to be. So you can see
Before joining WSB-TV in Atlanta, Moore held broadcasting positions in other states.
Before Atlanta, I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and then before Memphis, my first job was in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So you can see the progression, small town. Memphis is considered like a medium-sized market, and then Atlanta, of course, is a top 10 market. I grew up in New York City.
Moore was raised by her mother in a single-parent home. She was not sure of her career path in high school, so she gave nursing a try.
And after the first couple of visits to the hospital, I realized that I didn't want to be a nurse, but I stayed at that high school. Which is similar to here. You're kind of zoned for high schools in New York.
Although Moore dropped out of the nursing program, she was still able to stay in that school district, a relief for her and her mother when considering the alternative.
Instead of my regular zoned high school, which would have meant that I was going to school with all my neighborhood thugs. So, which is where my mother really didn't want me to go, so that's why she made me take this test for the nursing program, which I ended up not staying in. So I grew up in a very urban New York City, very typical kind of neighborhood.
Moore managed to stay out of the trouble that plagued her peers.
A lot of my friends were either drug dealers. I had a lot of friends get pregnant in high school. I had a lot of friends, especially male friends, go to jail before we even got out of high school. So that was sort of the environment that I was growing up in.
Attending college was a means of escape from her urban city lifestyle, and Moore made sure her studies took her away from New York City.
When it came time to pick colleges, one thing that I knew, also because of my environment, I didn't want to stay in New York City. I wanted to get out of the city and get someplace else and sort of experience, see sort of another way of life and get out of my very urban New York City neighborhood. So I went to college, Bennington College in Vermont, which is a liberal arts school, a very small school, only a few hundred kids on the campus. Like my senior year, maybe there were 40 of us who graduated my senior year, so very small liberal arts school.
Still uncertain of the path she should pursue, a professor steps in with an idea.
One of my professors, my freshman year, happened to be a former news writer for CBS News. And he had worked with Walter Cronkite, and he had worked with Dan Rather, and now he was teaching. And one thing that he said to me very early on was, you have a pretty good writing style. You should think about being a journalist. This freshman professor is talking to me about being a journalist and news and the whole thing. It really sort of made a connection for me. And I thought, oh, okay, you mean the people that I watch all the time on the news, really? And started putting it together.
Jovita Moore's star continued to rise, and she worked hard to make her way to the top in the industry. She shared with Chamblee students how hard work, research, homework, mentors, and internships were all keys to her success. But one of the best examples that Jovita Moore set for the Chamblee students was the example of balance. She's a successful anchor, wife, mother, and she gives back to her community. Jovita Moore is a regular guest to the Chamblee Broadcasting Department. She's helped students chart their career path and has helped us acquire new equipment for our studio. To To find out more about Jovita Moore, log on to WSB-TV.com.